Hi Danielle, thanks for meeting with me again.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm doing great. So basically what we have done is you did the lesson on ELA for Because of Winn-Dixie, and we were mostly looking for the reality of the classroom and what was happening with engagement and attention and what you were doing and what your students were doing, and you filled out those rubrics for us. So now I just have some questions, and what the goal of this is now that we both watched the video, I want to see if I can help you, and maybe you already have an idea of narrowing it down to what specific goal you want to work on, and I can help you learn something or help you with that as our next step.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the worst and 10 being the best, how would you rank that lesson overall for yourself? And there's no right or wrong answers. I just want to see what you were thinking, and you can use your rubrics to help.
So, based on my rubrics and rewatching the video, I felt maybe a strong in between 5 and 6.
Okay. Can you elaborate a little bit about that? Why were you thinking that?
I try to keep my students engaged in the lesson, asking questions, vocabulary. You always feel like you could do more, so maybe that's why I ranked it a little lower. And also, my kids also just some of them not being on task as much as they should.
Okay. And I'm just taking a couple key notes. And what were you pleased about with the lesson? What did you think was like your main strength, either something from your rubric or that you noticed that was that you were really pleased with as a strength?
I was definitely pleased to have friends participating, even maybe some new friends that were not participating, because you know how kids are. So new friends participating is what I should say.
Okay. What would you consider participation? What does that look like to you?
Either just shouting out an answer or raising their hand. Even if I don't get to call on them, at least they had an answer in mind. They had their hand raised, ready to go.
More just raising their hands, and there was a lot of the
out.
shouting quick answers.
Yep.
I know. Okay. More raising their hand. Okay. So what would you have changed to get it closer to a 10? So what would be an area that you were like, oh, I wish I'd done this more?
Maybe I could have read through or looked through the chapter beforehand, maybe took some more key vocab words, and also learned a few words myself.
So I know we talked about that word melancholy, so
Yeah.
kind of pre-planning your lesson a little bit more.
Yeah.
We talked about that with the ELA. And how do you think that is going to help your students with learning by doing those things? What is your ultimate goal for the students if you pre-plan those ways?
Definitely more engagement, more comprehension, and I won't show the kids that I also don't know words. I will not embarrass myself in front of them.
Okay, so basically, you were saying that they have improved engagement, but now you're saying you want to increase engagement.
Yeah,
so
increase
what
it.
do you mean by increase? Is there a different style of engagement? Because you said that they were participating by shouting out answers, raising their hand more. Is there a different type of engagement you're wanting to see from pre-planning possibly, and that comprehension piece molded together?
Maybe having just more kids participating, because sometimes it's the same friends over and over, so I just want more of them participating than usual.
Okay. Participating how? By shouting out more, raising their hand? Like what?
I mean, I prefer either one. I don't have a preference if they raise their hand or shout it out.
Okay. So when you're measuring, because you did mention comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you know they were actually understanding a key part of the story? So if everybody, I noticed in the video, you had everybody just shout out something very quickly and then you moved on. Is that the level of engagement? Was the comprehension questions where you wanted them to be? Is there something deeper you want to get from this?
So I, could still definitely learn a few things myself, maybe have them turn and talk as we should be doing, or give them a few seconds to think about the question. Also, instead of maybe having them call out the answer, either have them still raise their hand or just maybe call on a friend that's not raising their hand and see where they are.
Yeah, okay, I like that. And I really like where we're going with this because we're kind of tying like an assessment piece to that engagement and discussion.
Mhm.
So we're almost thinking like, how can we assess a discussion
Yep.
kind of thing. And I noticed that too, you're asking kind of some basic recall questions
Mhm.
and everybody's shouting out a quick answer, but I wonder if with that melancholy being like the
Yeah.
main, that feeling of the chapter and how it connects to all the characters, maybe even thinking about higher level question, even if it's one or two per chapter per lesson, and then see how can we really get everybody to engage so you know if they're really understanding it. So I think that's kind of what maybe you're thinking, but we could work towards. Does that
Yep.
sound something?
Yep.
Like something you'd be interested in? And then we can maybe think about turning and talking about that question while you're maybe note taking or listening in, or even, I like what you said there, that think time.
Yep.
Perhaps even doing a quick write, something like that would be ideal. So I like this discussion. That's really going deeper with that. So how could we measure that? How could we measure if you have like an open question for engagement? How can we measure whether or not the students fully comprehend the character reactions or why something's happening in that story?
Definitely call on friends that's not raising their hand to see if they're engaged, if they're also comprehending what's going on. The friends that have their hand raised, we can also call on them too. I'm sure they know the answer if they're raising their hand. But I think really just calling on friends that are not raising their hands is going to really tell me where I need to also work on too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so do you want to look at it as how many different people you call on, because you have 22 friends in a lesson?
23.
23. So how are you going to really measure? So are we going to look at the turn and talk part so that way you can see how many, because I also, my concern is you might only call on 4, 5, 6 friends.
Yeah.
And you're still not getting the full effect of did everybody comprehend? You see what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
So maybe we can, instead of just the raising of the hand part,
Yeah.
we can, you can either think about using the turn and talk, and then we can see what percentage of students are fully engaged.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, let's see here. So if you hit that goal, what would you want, so if we're looking at, you want full engagement for a comprehension, deeper thinking question where everybody's turning and talking, like what percentage of students do you want to shoot for, like 90 or 95, 100? Like what do you think you could get
I mean,
for a goal?
let's see. For a goal, realistically, of course, I want 100%. I know that's not realistic, so definitely shoot for at least 85, 90%.
So 85, 90% of your students, what would you say?
Oh, to make sure they're engaged and comprehending.
Engaged, and we'll maybe come up with a focal question.
Yeah. And maybe also that's something to work on too, is to go back myself as a teacher, make those focal questions for the students beforehand.
And I think that's a great place to start. So when I do, I'll come in and we'll talk about whether we model together or if you want me to co-teach a part, but definitely pre-planning just those questions. That's something that I do a lot, is think about what is the main thing that we need to take away at a higher level that's not quite a yes or no answer, that might just involve some text evidence to prove it. So I like that, and we can think about going deeper with that.
I like how you said text evidence. Oh, yeah.
Going back in that reading.
Yeah.
Okay, so what teaching strategies? So we talked about that, and we'll use some pre-planning strategies, and then we'll choose some questions that are open-ended.
Yep.
And then from there, we'll discuss how to turn and talk to a partner about that and how can we best utilize our time with that.
Sounds good.
And whether that might even be where some students are writing too, so they can remember. Okay, so what do you think our next step should be?
Excuse me.
And it sounds like you kind of answered that. So we need to decide on a day and time that you want to work on this together. So what is today?
The 5th.
Tuesday.
6th. Yeah.
So do you think that there's a part in the story that we can, or another chapter we can go back to reread and go deeper in, since we're doing character analysis? Is there a part you think, you do think on tomorrow, or tomorrow's Wednesday, so maybe you can create a chapter, choose a chapter and think of 1 or 2 questions,
Okay.
and then I can, we can figure out how to
Yeah,
model or
I was trying to think.
find somebody to come in and help,
Yeah.
so I can cover
Yeah.
either that, or I can do another video of you teaching it if I can't come in myself and
Yeah.
model. I know we're running short on time and our assistant's not here. If not, we could do another video of you doing it, and we could always watch the video together and discuss it as well,
Either
if
way.
needed.
Whatever.
So let's
Yeah.
meet back again tomorrow, and you just let me know what chapter you want to revisit for that character analysis,
Okay.
and what focal questions we can work through,
Yeah,
since
sounds
we're
good.
done with the story now.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.